The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone and welcome to the iSpring Solutions webinar. Thank you very much for joining us today as we are going to speak about how to let the genie out of your PowerPoint bottle, or in other words, to repurpose your existing PowerPoint content. My name is Paulina. I am a community manager at iSpring and I will be the moderator for today's webinar. And as a guest speakers, we have today with us Simon, Morton, and Alex from Eyeful Presentations. Hello gentlemen, how are you doing today?
Very good. We're very good. We're having a slight technical issue, which is why we're going to be sharing this microphone. But don't worry, Alex is here. I'd make sure he's here. If he wasn't here, I'd be looking a lot more panicked than I currently do.
Okay, wonderful. We believe you. And as long as you're presenting, that's fine.
Great.
All right. So thank you very much for making it happen today. And let me please let you guys know that as usual at the end of this webinar we're going to have a short Q&A session about 10 minutes. So let me show you really quickly where you should submit your questions. So on the screen you should see the picture, and if you look at the right side of the GoToWebinar panel, somewhere at the bottom you will see the question box, and this is where you should submit your questions. Okay, so at this point, I would also like to launch a very quick poll question, and I would very much appreciate if you guys could take the vote. So if you could let us know what iSpring license you have, and if you have any, that would be wonderful. So maybe you have a paid license, maybe you use a trial, maybe you don't have any license of iSpring at all. You're just very fascinated by the speakers we have invited today and you're very interested in the topic. So please let us know. This will really help us to prepare for our future webinars. Okay, so at this point, I will allow you a couple more moments to finish voting in the poll question. All right, so looks like almost everybody has taken the vote. So let me please close the poll right now. Okay, and I think that at this moment I'm ready to pass the mic over to you, Simon and Alex.
Wonderful.
And let me make you guys our presenters.
Okay, are we up and running?
We should be.
Okay, let's have a look. Just make sure it is me. I think it's me. Show my screen.
Okay.
Okay, we're good to go? Fantastic. I'm assuming you can see the first slide, which talks about the power of repurposing. Paulina, thank you so much for inviting Alex and myself along to to talk about this particular topic. We are a small business. We've been going now for coming up for 13 years. And if anybody out there works for a small business or works for a department within a larger business, you will understand the importance of doing things as efficiently and as effectively as you possibly can do. And for me, one of the things that we always had a real focus on when I started the business, like I say, 13 years ago, was to get as much out of everything we did as possible. I remember many years ago, I think there were probably 3 or 4 people in our business, and somebody said to me, wow, how many people are in your marketing department? You seem to be putting new content out all the time. And the reality was we didn't. There was me, and I used to do it on a Sunday morning. But what we used to do is...
I'm sorry for interrupting, but we see your desktop. Are we supposed to see any presentation?
Right, you're supposed to be seeing the presentation, absolutely. That's absolutely the wrong... It's an interesting desktop, I'll give you that, but let's have a look. How about now? Better?
Yes, I think that's much better.
Go. Fantastic. I mean, if nothing else, you got to see how disorganized my desktop was. So some things have never changed, and certainly this approach to sort of taking this content and repurposing it in lots of different ways, that's exactly what drove our business in the very early days. And when somebody said, how many people in your marketing department, it was just me taking one piece of content and repurposing it as many times as I possibly could. The tool I tended to use for that was good old PowerPoint. So my first question to you guys is, when it comes to your presentation and making things sort of work differently, what do you use PowerPoint for other than presentations? So are you using it to create documents? Are you creating it to use meeting notes or maybe even video? So if you could, I'd love you to, in the question section on the right-hand side of the panel there, just tap in a couple of comments as to the type of thing you use PowerPoint for that isn't just for presentations. And Polina, if you can keep an eye on those and let us know what people are saying, that'd be great.
Sure. So Matt says that he used PowerPoint to develop training courses. And
Great.
then, oh, too fast. course
These
creation.
people are good.
Yeah, graphics, polling, create videos for our e-learning content, mostly presentations, sometimes for drawing conceptual graphics, just presentations, everything that requires visual design. Word is not an effective tool.
Oh, amen to that. Word drives me to distraction. It's really limiting, but PowerPoint just gives you more room to develop and create your own ideas. This is great. And what I can see coming through are things around videos, around the use of PDFs. It's great that the great sort of e-learning tools are being created off the back of this as well. So really, really good positive things that are coming through from this. And that's really the secret of making the most out of this whole repurposing thing. So it's great that people are already grabbing hold of this as an idea. And obviously, iSpring is another really strong tool to add to that mix to allow you to create, you know, sort of HTML5 and e-learning enabled content from really simple, easy to use tool that we all know and a lot of us love, which is PowerPoint. If I can share with you an analogy, I, as you probably saw if you saw the webcam, I'm a man of a certain age. I'm now embracing my middle years and have become a bit of a cliche. And one of the things that I love is gardening. But equally, I'm very, very mean and will take any measures I possibly can to reduce my spend on gardening. And plants are really expensive. If anybody has been to a garden centre or to the local DIY store, you know that to buy a plant will cost you a lot of money. But there are ways of making more out of that plant. There's something called propagation, where you can take a plant, a healthy plant, and you can take bits off it and use it to replant and to create new plants. Or you can go all the way through to collecting the seeds at the end of a season, and from one plant you might get 100 new plants next season. The thing that stops people doing that, and the thing that stops, the thing that keeps garden centres in business, is the fact that people either don't understand that they can do that, or they don't feel they have the skills. And what we want to get across today, and Alex will show you very much how to do this, is that you do have the skills. If you can create PowerPoint, you can do this, and you can do this really effectively. So what I want you guys to recognize is that you have a choice. You can either go through the repurposing process and take the hard work that you've already put in, or you can start that whole process again. And that's really our aim for this session. So I'm going to ask another question and see if you can confuse Polina again with a few more sort of questions.
Sure.
So what I'd like to ask you is, when you're creating a new presentation, so a completely new presentation, typically how long does that take you? And again, please, if you could put it into the question section, we can then see the sort of stuff. I'm seeing 2 to 3 days there. A good week, excellent. 2 days. 1 to 2 days. Brilliant. You guys are really impressive. We ask this question a lot of a whole heap of different audiences. And the last time we asked this question, 40% of the people that responded said that they created a presentation within half a day, which, based on the people that have joined and are offering your sort of feedback, that's no time at all. And if we took an average, somebody put half a day, OMG. How do they do that? And you're absolutely right, Robert. It's a bit worrying that they're doing that. But even half a day in business these days is a big investment. And certainly the people that are on the webinar now, if you're on average spending 2 days, that's a really sizable amount of time and investment from the company to create some content. And for me, I think if we go back to basics, taking all of those elements and sort of breaking them down, I think you see some really interesting sort of phases of that. You know, good presentations are made up of a really strong message. When we talk about messaging, we talk about how that message development phase is really probably the most difficult part of the whole process, because you have to really think hard. And by understanding what message you want to share with your audience, what you want your audience to do as a result of the information you've shared with them, that shouldn't be done in half a day. And so it's really good to hear that people are saying, yeah, maybe 2, maybe 3 days, over a week sometimes. The best presentations we create are things that are developed over time, not turned around super quickly. You know, this is slow cooking. It's not you know, fast food or junk food. Once you've got that strong message, then you can develop your content, and that content is really time consuming as well. But it should be time consuming for the right reasons. At this phase of the process, you should be sifting out the information that's not going to support your message. There's a quote that has been attributed to Mark Twain and Winston Churchill and umpteen other people, which is, I'm sorry, I didn't have time to write a short letter, so here is a long one. And content is exactly that. If you're not careful, what you end up doing is you end up putting too much information in to a presentation, and that kills it. The message gets lost, the story becomes confused. But getting that content piece right is very, very important. And then the design phase actually is often the point where people tend to spend most of their time. It's a huge drain on their time, and often will be where people's 2, 3, maybe a week is spent trying to create all of this wonderful stuff in PowerPoint. And that is all of that process, that from message through to content, through to design, is to create one presentation. And the big shame for me is that after a presentation has been created and then delivered, the vast majority of those presentations then end up on a server and are never looked at again. That's not always the case, but it can be a real challenge when it comes to making sure that all of the investment you've put in, all the time, the late nights that you've put in, are all suddenly then wasted because they just sit on a server doing nothing. And so what I'd implore you to do is stop thinking about your presentations as presentations. Actually, take those 3 elements and view them as the ingredients for your next story. And that next story can be used in a whole heap of different ways. And that's really where we want to take this conversation next, which is think about how you can use these ingredients in other forms of communication. And we've created a circle. We call it the repurposing circle, and it's very, very basic. There are lots more. There are a lot more elements that can be added to this, but fundamentally, you can, from one single presentation, create a whole host of different outputs. And let's take my favorite, because we're working with iSpring on this. Let's talk about the power of the HTML5 toolkit. For training, for marketing, the fact that there are so many of you guys that are already using iSpring, you'll recognize that this is a great way to get more outputs from the hard work you've already put in creating your presentation. iSpring have made it so very easy to create content that then can be shared online or used as part of a training sort of program and system. It works really, really effectively. We use it for a lot of social media. If we're creating content that is going to be valuable for sort of online tools and what have you, we created in PowerPoint a presentation that our sales guys were going out and sharing with our clients, but at the same time we then converted that, took some content, added a little bit more content because it was going online, used iSpring to output it to HTML5, and it now sits on our website. That was us repurposing content in the most effective way possible. And then you can move into social media, and this is one of the areas that Alex will be covering off later on. But you can see above you here examples of little animations that we put in place for Twitter and what have you, and using animated GIFs as a way of engaging with our audiences. All of this pulls upon PowerPoint, and all we've done is we've just taken that little animation and turned it into an animated GIF to ensure that we can then spread that information across a social media channel. The same can be said for infographics. Yeah, again, one of the things that we like doing is taking the message and the content that we created as part of a presentation, tweaking it a little bit, and then outputting it as an infographic. And if you're in marketing, certainly if you're in content marketing, you know how vital sort of good content can be, and people love infographics. This is a great way of doing that. And then finally, web videos. We created a video for a new campaign that we ran just before Christmas, and we did pretty much everything. Everything you can see there was created in PowerPoint, then output as a video, and that made it onto social media, but it also made it onto other formats as well.
That's actually pretty impressive. I really loved it.
And this is the wonderful thing about PowerPoint, is that it stops becoming the home where bullet points go to die, and actually turns into something that is a really powerful tool that can be used really effectively and very, very easily. As Alex will attest, I am no expert, but even I can do things in PowerPoint that are valuable and can be handed out to our clients. So that's really important. And then finally, very quickly, we can take sort of that idea, and if you have to develop content for any audiences, your sales audiences, or maybe it's part of a marketing team, again, the use of PowerPoint can be really effective. We launched something recently called Eyeful Lens. Eyeful Lens is a video tool, but what we do is the secrets of that success is that actually we're creating videos, we're creating HTML5 content that is personalized to an audience of one. Because PowerPoint is so flexible, you could create something in HTML5 that is designed for one individual person really quickly, really effectively, and that gets away from the noise of there being so much content. And then, as many people did say, the use of things like hard copy presentations, we do that a lot as a presentation tool, but then also in things like bid documents and proposal documents. PowerPoint's great. All of our proposal documents are created in PowerPoint, and even using it on things like the iPad. Again, super simple. Sorry, Polina, I think I may have spoken over you. Were you about to say something?
I'm sorry?
Sorry, I heard you. It was as if you were going to say something. So
No, that's fine. Please keep going.
Right. Okay. As you know, once I start, I struggle to stop. But there we go.
That's fine.
One common denominator across all of this is PowerPoint. Everything you've just seen, it all started with PowerPoint. It's a wonderful tool as a presentation format. And I think, thankfully, we're coming out of people now thinking about PowerPoint as death by PowerPoint and bullet points. Microsoft have worked really hard to make it a powerful tool. Yeah, new things like being able to embed 3D objects into a presentation is incredibly powerful, really, really good. But we now need to stop thinking about it as a presentation tool and actually think of it more as an authoring tool, something where you can truly sort of engage with your with audiences on different levels and in different formats, and always putting their needs first. And with that in mind, I'm going to hand over to Alex, who will start sharing some of the things that he does as within the design team here at Eyeful. Alex is one of our senior designers, also our lead trainer. So in terms of somebody that knows how to make this stuff happen, he is pretty much the perfect guy for the job. So I will now be quiet and hand over to Alex.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Simon. Hopefully you can all hear me loud and clear. So firstly, we are going to take a look at creating an animated GIF from PowerPoint. So this is something that's really, really useful in sort of today's world, because there's so many places online where you can upload GIFs, and they have got quite an impact to them. So firstly, let's take a step back and say, for those who don't know, what is a GIF? Basically, it's a graphics interchange format, and it basically works just like a flip book of images and can loop continuously. Due to the lower quality of the size in terms of file size, it can be easily used in multiple ways. And despite being originally made in the 80s, it's actually had a bit of a resurgence in the last few years, especially because of social media and all the places that you can put it online and make an impact online. Certainly all the sort of Google ads and all of those sort of things, they use loads of GIFs to sell things and make an impact. Okay, they sort of GIFs have a good way of forcing the attention of the viewer. So like I said, they're really, really useful. And now I'm going to basically just go through a bit of a step-by-step process in PowerPoint, how to create a simple GIF like you can see on this slide here. So just something as simple as that. For this example, I'm going to be using Twitter. The reason for that is just because I know the ratio of Twitter. I know that you can upload GIFs directly to Twitter. You don't need to go through a third-party website. Each social media site is different when it comes to stuff like that, so it's always worth Googling to see which social media accepts GIFs and what's the optimal size. For Twitter, I know the optimal size is going to be square. So firstly, I need to open up a PowerPoint. So I'm just going to quickly go to my files and open one up. Okay. Just come in. Okay. So 1 second. Sorry about this. Okay. I'm very nearly there, I promise you. Okay. Okay, I've got this one here. Right, so what we've got here is a square ratio, which has got a repurposing wheel on. Okay, so all I've done in terms of setting up this PowerPoint is I've gone to design, I've gone to slide size, custom slide size, and you can see here my width and height are exactly the same, so I know that it's going to be square. So you can basically have any sort of size screen that you want when you're dealing with PowerPoint, whether it's widescreen, 4:3, A4, or square for something like this. So it's a perfect size for my GIF. Okay, so the next thing I would do is I'd obviously design the actual content itself. So in this case, we've got a repurposing wheel. So I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of how to animate this because there are some quite complex animations, but if you just have a look at the animation sequence, you can see there's quite a lot of animations going on with this repurposing wheel. We've done a similar webinar recently where we had quite a few questions about this process, and all I said is this is quite a complex one. You can do very, very simple animations or very simple transitions, but basically what you're trying to do with this is just save it out as a video. So once we've saved this out as a video, then it's just a case of using an online converter tool to convert that video into a GIF and then upload it. So it's as simple as that. So we've got our content, we've got the square ratio. The next thing we're going to do is export this as a video. So all I've done there is go to File, Export, Create a Video. I'm going to keep it as Full HD, 1080p. There's a couple more options there for you, but I'm just going to go Create Video. So just going to call that 2. Okay, so as simple as that. So this is the sort of stage now where I'd say if there's any designers out there who are listening in, I would normally create these sort of GIFs using a software like Photoshop. So all I would do is take the finished video, I would drop it into Photoshop, and the different frames would be the different layers, and I'd create a GIF that way. It gives you a little bit more editability. But I know there's plenty of people out there who don't have that sort of software. So this is just a simpler way of showing that it can be done without any sort of specialist design software.
Excuse me, Alex, and how much time would it normally take you to create everything from scratch in PowerPoint?
What's something like this repurposing wheel, for example?
Mm-hmm.
Something like this repurposing wheel, for example.
Yes.
It depends on once you've got the actual design and it's been storyboarded. So for something like this, it would take Simon to sort of go away and think about exactly what needs to be on there, and perhaps do a few sketches and come up with a clear idea of what technically we're going to do in PowerPoint. And once that part is done, it probably took me about 45 minutes, I think, to put that one together.
Cool.
So just to actually put it on screen and to animate it. But obviously the background work is the larger amount of time spent.
That's what I tell him anyway.
Thank you.
Okay, so what I've got here is, you can see I've got a video file. So I'm just going to drag this over to this screen here. So you can clearly see it's just playing as a video now. It's about 8 seconds long, so really simple video. So the next thing I'm going to do is I am just going to upload this to Twitter. So it's really, really simple. I'm just going to sign in here. So just really, really simple. Okay. So here we go. I don't know why Donald Trump's coming up. But here we go. So I'm just going to go to what's happening here. Now, when I click into this box, it's going to give me a few options about what to upload. So anybody who's used Twitter will be fully aware of this stuff. However, if I click add a GIF there, it's just going to give me it's just going to give me a list of default GIFs that are on the system. So I don't want that. I'm just going to basically upload this as I would an image to Twitter. So I'm just going to go add photos or video. Okay. And in a second, I'm just going to drag my video over to the desktop so I can find it easier. So just going to add this. Okay, and I should be able to see my repurposing wheel. There it is. So I'm just going to open that up. Sorry, I've missed a stage here. First of all, I need to go into Giphy to actually turn this video into a GIF before I upload it. So I'm taking one step back, so apologies for that.
Is this a free resource?
Yeah, it's completely a free resource, and there's loads of these sort of sites about. So I've just used this one in particular because it does quite a quick job of turning your MP4 into a GIF. But there's loads of these sort of sites, so if you just want to Google them, this isn't the only one. So it's just as simple as signing in. Okay, go to create. So I'm just going to drag my video, which is okay, I'm just going to use this one and drag it in here. Just trying to work with two screens. Okay, so hopefully let's just try and choose the video. It's not really playing ball here. Okay.
That's the one.
Yeah, here we go. Losing my eyesight this afternoon. So I've uploaded this MP4 to Giphy. It will show me the duration there. I'm going to stick that duration all the way to the end because I want all of it to play. So it's just a case of moving that bar all the way to the end, 7.1 seconds. It says continue to decorate. I don't need anything like that. At this stage here, it says public. I don't want it to be public. I don't want this GIF to be seen just on this Giphy site. So I'm just going to upload it to Giphy here. So really simple. I've taken my MP4 from PowerPoint, stuck it into Giphy, and it should come up with a few different options for me. So, like I said, different social media sites deal with GIFs in different ways. So for example, some will need a link from a third-party website, which will be something like this, in which case you just use this link. For Twitter, for example, I can upload it directly to Twitter. So all I'm going to do is go to download, just download this and save it. So I'm just going to see where it is. It's right there in my downloads. So this is the stage that I missed. Now I'm going to go back to Twitter. So let me just get rid of that one. So back to this stage here. And this is where I'm going to add the GIF right there. It's just called Giphy1 at the moment. And upload that. So at this point, I can do my hashtags and all of that sort of thing and sort of tag it to other people and give it a title and all that sort of thing, and then hit tweet. So at that stage, the whole world can now see it. Well, anybody who's sort of following me or anything like that. So my site isn't very informative, and there's nothing much going on there. But certainly, Eyeful Presentations is a good one to follow.
Oh, Alex, that's so good.
You'll have lots of interesting things to see there. So despite a few technical issues, we did get there in the end. And there is a GIF straight from PowerPoint through to video and onto the site itself. So just a very quick recap. So I'm just going to go back down to these slides here. Okay, so just a very quick recap, 4-step process. One is do your PowerPoint presentation, sort out the ratio and export it to video, and MP4 is perfect for those using PowerPoint 2013 and above. The next thing is to use an online GIF creator tool, or if you're a designer out there, you can use Photoshop and basically convert your video into a simple GIF and then upload that GIF to social media sites. So really, really simple. So hopefully that was all informative for you. So the next thing I'm going to talk about from the repurposing wheel is to do with creating a value-added handout. The reason for using these sort of handouts is basically, when I am training people, they basically say that they want to have a really nice presentation, but at the same time they need it to be a standalone document. So they need more text on there for basically sharing the presentation afterwards. And my way of thinking is always just try and use the notes section at the bottom of the slide. So for example, this part here. So instead of putting all the text on your actual slide, just have the slide as clean as possible, just have visuals there, and as the presenter you can sort of talk around that using the notes from the notes master. Using the notes from the bottom of the screen, sorry. But then obviously if you want to use this as a standalone document afterwards, you can actually create a really nice looking document using the notes that you put down here and having them displayed on a slide like this, so it looks quite professional. So you've got the slide itself and the notes next to it. So that's the reason for the notes master. So I'm just going to go into basically how to create one of these. So first of all, if you just go to view on your ribbon, it's the far right tab, and I'm just going to go over to Notes Master here. So you can see this is the sort of default that PowerPoint is going to give you. It's going to give you your little slide and your notes here. But it doesn't look very inviting. It certainly doesn't look very professional. There's no sort of logos or a nice banner or a nice footer or anything like that on there. So I'm sure we can do a lot better than that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you that you can actually drag and drop some of these elements around to different places. So for example, if I want the slide over this side, I can actually up the size of it as well, so the visuals are a little bit more prominent. I can actually move the text around as well, so when it's actually shown, the text will be nicely aligned next to the slide itself. Once I've done all of these changes, I can then either save it as a PDF and share that PDF as a static document, or I could directly print it. So either way, it works really, really well. You can also sort out the sort of slide size as well. So for example, at the moment it's set to 16 by 9, but you can actually set that to A4 or 4 by 3 or however you want. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a header and a footer. So here's one I made earlier, just so I don't have to create one whilst you're all listening to me. So it's a little bit of a cheat, but I've created one there. So all I'm going to do is just copy, just go to my Notes Master, and I'm just going to paste them in. So really simply, just like that. So make sure they line up. You guys can spend a little bit more time on this than I have, but I'm just going to line that up right down here, send that to the back, and just line up my page number. Like I said, you can spend a bit more time on this, but you can see here I've got a nice Eyeful Presentations logo. I've got a page number placeholder. I've got my slide and my text. So already, just by adding a couple of different elements, it already looks like a much nicer document. So at this stage, you can then go to Save As, and for this one I'm just going to go to PDF. I'm going to go to More Options. I'm going to click Options again.
I think it's hidden behind there.
Oh yeah, I've got it hidden here. Here we go. And then it's going to say publish what. So at the moment it's going to publish my slides, but if I actually publish the notes pages instead and hit OK, then hopefully, so it's just publishing now. So you'll be able to see it in just a second. So just a few seconds now. So it's really, really useful tools to try and get some of that text off the slide. Just use the Notes Master. Okay. Right. So here we go. So you can clearly see this is the sort of output that you're going to get. You're going to get a really nice banner. You're going to get the slide itself. You're going to get some text next to it and your banner, your footer at the bottom with your page number. So however you want to sort of set that Notes Master out is really, really helpful. Instead of having all of this text on the slide here and really sort of damaging the look of that visual and getting in the way of the presenter as well when they're actually presenting that. You've just got that in the notes section, and when you come to share that as a static PDF or printout or any way you want to do it, it's a lot more professional. So finally, just to again recap, just again with the 4-stage process. So making sure to use the notes section at the bottom of your slides. Then go into Notes Master, very simply just go into View and Notes Master as you would the Slide Master, but it's the Notes Master this time. Creating your Notes Master layout, so whether you're going to have it portrait or landscape, what ratio you're going to pick, making sure you're adding things like page numbers if you want, or headers, footers, logos, anything you want on there really, and changing the size of the slide compared to the notes and having the notes bigger, smaller, etc., etc. And finally, saving it as a PDF like I just did, selecting the options and changing the publish from slides just to notes pages and hitting publish. So really, really simple, easy as that. So hopefully that helps you a little bit.
Fantastic. Thanks, Alex. I mean, the thing for me is, and obviously I see Alex and the rest of the team do this day in, day out, is I used to think of myself as a bit of an expert on PowerPoint, and what's happened certainly over the last few years is that the publishing power of PowerPoint means that actually I'm way behind now, and creating and using external tools like Giphy and thinking about how PowerPoint can help you address frustrations like ugly looking handouts. It's all there. It's all sort of at your fingertips, and if you can use the same content multiple times, that kind of is really what we're aiming for across the board. So hopefully you found that useful. Thank you as ever to Alex, who's brilliant at sharing this sort of information. Thing for me that I think would be really useful now is just get a sense as to, based on the things that we've shared with you, what type of other applications can you see you using PowerPoint in the future? So I'd like to throw that question out to you guys. Again, please do use the little sort of section on the right-hand side just to start sharing how you might be able to use PowerPoint a little bit differently going forward. Any ideas that you might have would be great.
Okay, thank you very much, guys.
And what sort of stuff's coming through, Paulina?
Handouts, flipbooks, expanding interactivity for on-demand e-learning video, training videos and webinars, handouts for marketing training.
The handout thing's a really important one. It's funny, we used to have a number of people come to us and say, we need a presentation and a series of handouts, and they would use, what's the Adobe tool that that people tend to use for handouts? The name escapes me at the moment.
InDesign.
InDesign, yeah. And there was always a big sort of push for, can you do this in InDesign because of the layout and what have you? And bit by bit, we've been able to take people and save them budget, save them a huge amount of time by saying, look, all of this can be in one document. So if your sales guys are out there, they don't have to make sure they've got the latest version of all of these different documents. They've got one thing to carry with them, and they can use that really effectively after meetings. Much the same goes for training as well. So it's great that some stuff is coming through here. I can see somebody talking about potentially using some stuff on Instagram. Again, it's a social media tool that is slightly alien to me. I know my kids think it's brilliant, and I'm sure it's really effective, but it's using this this working day tool that we seem to use constantly, almost every day. We all open up PowerPoint for one reason or the other. There's so much potential in it, and really kind of go out there and make the most out of it. So thank you to everybody that sort of came through with your ideas and your thoughts. My sort of finishing thing to you guys before we hand over to Polina and any questions you might have is, do think of all of your handiwork in PowerPoint, the presentations, the training materials you've created, everything that you mentioned right at the start of the early days. Think of it as an expensive plant. I keep going back to this gardening analogy because it seems to work. Get it to work harder. Rather than just plant it, it grows and then it dies and you throw it in the compost bin. See how you can make the most out of it. You will get so much more out of it over a much longer period of time. And what it will mean is that you'll be working smarter. There'll be more consistency in the information that you're sharing. And it means that you can be quicker and more agile. A great idea happens, somebody mentions something in a presentation, it can be on social media, as you saw, within minutes, which is really exciting. So hopefully that's given you some sense of the opportunity out there. Polina, I guess it's over to you now to sort of manage any questions that may come through, or ask any questions that you might have yourself.
Sure, and there's a couple of comments. Great presentation, thanks a lot. Greatest ideas, and very nice ideas. I am eager to try them out. Great content, Eyeful. You blew my mind open, which I think is amazing.
Hey, fantastic. That's lovely to hear.
Yeah, and there was a question. Do you guys have any tips on your website regarding PowerPoint that could be possibly used? Any how-tos or tutorials?
What are they called? Sort of
hacks.
The hacks.
Yeah.
So you've been behind a lot of these. So
yeah, one of my sort of design colleagues, Phil, he's been putting out on our blogs. He's been doing some basically PowerPoint hacks. So very quick, sort of minute and a half videos, which are very specific on a particular sort of problem and solution for PowerPoint. So we've put out probably a dozen of these, I think, in the last year, and we'll continue to do so. But any suggestions from anybody about something that they'd want to know, just put it to us, and we're more than happy to sort of go away and probably create another few of these.
Yeah, and that's probably a good example of us practicing what we preach, because the PowerPoint hacks are videos that sit on the blog, and they're created in PowerPoint, and we have fun making them. We try to make them quite humorous, but they also then end up on our Twitter feed as well. So they're exported out as GIFs, and then they sit on Twitter feed. So yeah, again, that you can see there, Eyeful Prez is our sort of main business Twitter feed, and there'll be some stuff in there. But if you need any further information, the blog is always a good place to have a look at.
Thank you very much. And there was, I guess that's a question from Ken. I've observed your presentation. What tips do you have for webinar PowerPoints?
From my side, I think one of it is a different sort of engagement, a webinar, and I think that's probably the biggest tip I can share with you, is that when you're dealing with a webinar, I mean, it's great. We had our webcams on at the start, and we know Polina, and have known Polina for some time, so it kind of feels like we're chatting with friends as much as anything, and hopefully that came through. One of the things you've got to be aware of is that there may be a lag. And so when we're talking about things on the slide, just keeping it at a decent pace is quite important. There's a lady called Nancy Duarte who works in our industry, very well regarded and a very nice person as well. And she has a lovely tip, which I will steal from her, but make sure that she gets a name check. What she does when she does a webinar is just to remember that you're not talking to a computer, you're talking to people. Is she puts little pictures of people at the top of her monitor. Just a random selection of people. So when she looks up and she's talking at the screen, she forgets she's talking to a screen. She remembers that she's talking to people. And I think in terms of how you engage with your audience, asking lots of questions is a good way of making sure people are still engaged. All of those are good ideas just to keep people on side.
That's actually a great idea, and I think I could be personally using that as well.
It's good, isn't it? It really is good. Yeah, it makes such a difference.
Right. And going back to our GIFs, Monica asked, the GIF have a transparent background?
No, they don't. No, they don't. They're not capable of the transparent background. So the one that I used has just got a white background. So whether you put a background on it or not, if the PowerPoint slide was if it was blank like that, it just come out with a white background.
Thank you, Alex. And there is also another question from Millie. Can you create custom animations rather than use the canned animations?
When you say custom canned animations, the animations that are available in PowerPoint can be sort of layered upon each other. So you don't just need to have a sort of basic fade or a motion path or anything like that. You can actually have a fade and a zoom together and a motion path and exit animations and all that sort of thing on the same object, which I've done on the repurposing wheel. So there's multiple PowerPoint animations going on each of these different segments, if you will. So they're not particularly canned. They're just the ones available in PowerPoint.
And I guess it's that combination of how you use them together can create something completely new. Yeah. And then you've got morph as a transition as well, and that again opens up a lot of opportunity, I guess.
Thank you very much, guys. And there is a comment from Matt that I cannot ignore. I just want to read it out loud. PowerPoint is the cockroach that's impossible to kill and just keeps surviving the changing times. Same is true for GIF format.
Very true. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so I think I've been attentive enough and I didn't miss any other questions. So if you guys have any more questions, please send them in right now. And I would like to thank you, Simon and Alex, for presenting for iSpring audience today. I think you did a wonderful job. Thank you very much for making it happen again.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Real pleasure. It's great to work with you guys. And again, please get in touch if you've got any further questions. It'd be great to help out.
Sure. And at this point, I would like to mention that the recording of this webinar will be sent to all our registered users and also attendees as soon as it's uploaded on YouTube. So guys, just watch out for this webinar recording in your inbox. And I think that at this point we are ready to wrap up. So if you guys like this webinar, please let us know in the comments section. I know a lot of you sent very nice comments about it. Thank you very much. If you didn't like this webinar, please send your feedback because this would very much help us to improve for the future events. Okay, so again, thanks a lot everyone, and our next webinar will be held next week on March 6th, and we will be talking about how to be a great e-learning producer. This will be covering more of an approach. So I will be sharing the link to register for this webinar really soon, sometime later this week. Okay, so I hope everyone has a wonderful day or the rest of the day, and we'll see you next week. So bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.